Organizational Embodiment of Hostia, Volume 2, Secret Teachings of the Order of Nine Angles by Anton Long. Satanism is a religion, and religions are regulating. The binding involved is for the purpose of efficiency by its selective approach to membership and material, which is beyond reliance on what the commoners consider respectable. With alternative religion being legalized in the Christian world, part of what the Order of Nine Angles represents was made possible. Group workings need to be without the abrogation that limits or prevents fitting results. The individuals chosen for long-term groups need to be those who can work on abilities towards long-term goals. They operate beyond the currently accepted ethics and morals. They form collectives of vitality. They are not beings of isolated pacts, but of self-realization and self-actualization. Tradition is much more fluid in Satanism. It must remain practical, theoretical, and experiential. It is forming one's own kingdom on levels of matter and spirit. It regards the collective and the individual initiates. We need to remember that the moralization of light and darkness, positive and negative, are other such dualities. It's pretty much the corruptions of the ages of Aries and Pisces. It is better to have willing engagement by those brought into the efforts, but it is not always necessary in using the forms and energies in separation from the popular cults. There are demon names that pertain more to the dark side and others that relate more to the light side. Some rituals are for particular times. The autumnal equinox was named for the son of the Great Mother, Mabon ap Madron, so it makes sense as a time for initiation. Dabeh, with Venus, the Sun, and the Moon are Algol, with Jupiter and Saturn, are considered auspicious with sacrifices. Self-initiation is possible, but a person is better initiated with a co-ed group and as seers with others leading the ritual on a hill or isolated site as evening comes on. I've taken to starting almost all my seasonal rites in the waning twilight. The energies are directed upon the crystals or ritual objects present. One circles the tone around C sharp with the appropriate names and directional focuses for opening a stargate. I find the gates of Nakala to be best opened at the winter solstice, and others may be best for other times of the year. Some will use musical instruments and dance to aid the chant, but this should be done for no less than 15 minutes, and the ritual items, our crystal, should be wrapped up again afterwards. Some will say that the path to hell is to have variety and break through constraints. The rebellion of a Satanist is not purposelessness, but it may start in a willingness to not be limited to where one is encouraged. They test limits of abilities and esteem. They will go beyond thinking and talking to experience and learn from life. Calling up things and beings can take time. This can be a time of intermittent fasting or restraining oneself from secular communication, and what is done for the sake of pleasure. A particular landmark, time, ceremonial setup. Outfits are adornment. Chants are symbolic. Astrological arrangements can be used. Remember, the thing about astrology, you're in control with which direction you take it. It doesn't rule you. Light is limited to things like glowing objects and candles. Some people may find it too cheesy to use glow-in-the-dark paint and that sort of thing. Some people, that may be just what they're looking for. But candles are a central one. It has that flicker thing. Strobe lighting, that can work too, but candles is more gentle about that. And, can have a deeper effect in the long term, perhaps. Or kind of seduce you into the effect, For each of the 9 gates of the body, a repetition of a chant like the Diabolus or Sanctus is used. The visualization and beliefs about the ritual calling should be about it opening an axion to the apostle. People dance and move for joy and represent the names of beings they mention. They are as the ones who see in darkness, and the conception of sex and violence is for the same cause. After the projection upon the crystals is complete, they eat and drink. I know that sinister calling and other rituals speak of nudity and sex, but these things can be more universally without requiring that or bloodletting. Don't get me wrong, if such is to occur, it is better that it is made part of one's spiritual practice. Anton Long and David Myatt put their own sexual tastes into their teachings, as does Asha Shadim of the Lilland Society. I just want to get across that spirituality of any type goes beyond personal tastes. You particularly see some of these things come through in the stories. And I would say that Draco Noctul and, some other people that wrote sinister fiction. Vengeance is needed at times, but we need to be wise about its possible effects on us. It shouldn't be petty, dehumanizing, and striking out at every opportunity to react. We need to stay in a context we consider honorable. Mental illness centers around disruptions of what can be called the original vision. It is not confined to the imposed limitations and damage, but a methodical functionary of development and achievement. Now, one thing that I have to admit that the research indicates that any system of belief, even with some of those disruptions, is better than totally secular, but still, there's some improvement that can be made on one's healths, Politics is magical because it manipulates society. Not all will be equal and will need to establish our own sort of kingdom. Witchcraft is not a political type or side, though. A magician will remain a distinct individual through any clandestine role or collective effort. Insight roles require a lack of apologies or even explaining to those who notice. They are taken on till the time or goal of the operation has come to pass and gone, really. It is not acting out aspects of one's ideal self, but in interacting with what conflicts with your personality. This can be in attending, on some level, a backstory that is no less than a reinterpretation of your life, a military or political job, initiation and training in a spiritual order, and I'm sure you can think of more, right? It is a type of what is typically called shadow work, but it can also be said to break the false egos and increase abilities on the physical, mental, and spiritual level. Society can be said to pay the price of who excels. It will also progress to the degree that they do the work. At the least, those of the right-hand path can draw in energy of their influence, and those of the left-hand path can manifest their becoming through effect. This isn't limited to any group, ritual, or myth. Life isn't always safe. We are not always known by others for what we are. There are regular and random tests in life. We can be honest about our responses to life. Life is for becoming. There are necessary difficulties. Society falls behind those who strive. The truly elite are not bringing others into their cult of personality, nor material culture. Authorized spirituality needs to be personally verified. Don't limit a spiritual path to a social or ritual structure. Ethics and morals are not black and white. Forms are for experience and directing effects, but involvement in them is not for accreditations and approval. Only surface progress can be seen from rank and titles. Worry about what your philosophy and actions are to yourself before ever considering how others will interpret it. Let's be true to life. Let's involve the different aspects of ourselves and not make things about responding to other groups. We don't have to have a counter existence. Don't get me wrong, debate and degree-oriented clubs and ritual orders can be useful to work with, but the fine details of who we are not explicitly sanctioned. Some beliefs and practices will be particular to an individual or group. We don't need to get into sectarian disputes over what is or isn't. Ordeals are according to such flexible terms, but not changes to attract more members or participants in a certain level. I mean, that which is not relying on externals to succeed in the face of trials. The dark beings and forces will filter those not willing to struggle in the way of what is called divinization. We can be up to the challenge as challenging beings. People can say that efforts are made to destruct and others are made to build up. In a way, these can be combined. Sometimes the mundane and weaknesses must be identified and exposed. Societies and types of systems are either means or they are temporary. Admit the shared impetus and move on. Everyone is responsible for their own choices. We are on our own pace, and everything is evil to someone. Satanists continue their worldly work till the end. Now, one thing that I mean is certainly, yes, you may vampirically use people psychologically and materially, you can say, but we're not to get into this, the weak one's advantages over the strong bit. We're supposed to actually be strong in ourselves. So in that way, let's not limit ourselves to the right-hand path. But certainly that can be used as a means. And excuse my pausing or rate of speaking or something being a little bit off at times. I'm not always up to the breath control ability.